Hello and welcome to A Perfect Night to Die, and with me, your host, Mark Aston. So this episode is the story of a song, really, the girl whose life and death inspired it, and the story behind how it was written. So the year would be 1995, 96, I think. I was living in Portobello. I'd just moved from Harlesden, where we started when we moved down to London to start the band. I moved to Portobello. Nick Liger, the guitar player, had moved out of this room he was sharing with two girls. I seem to remember having a broken heart at the time, and moved in where he moved out, and these two girls mothered me and loved me and looked after me and kind of brought me back to life after this heartbreak that I'd been through. And from there, we went on to eventually sign a record deal and had probably the best time of our entire lives, all centred around this flat in Ladbroke Grove, Portobello Road. And before we had the record deal, we were rehearsing and writing songs and finessing and gigging and had no money. And somebody said to me, well, you should try this agency, who were a casting agency for commercials and TV, for extras, really. And the whole thing terrified me because getting on stage and performing in front of, I mean, back then it wasn't very many people, but it went on to, when we were touring America, particularly to some very big shows in front of 20, 30,000 people. You get nervous, but it was fine. It was kind of me being myself, and in a band where you've got this foil of other people with you. But getting in front of a camera, stepping in front of a camera and pretending to be somebody else was just about the most terrifying thing I'd ever done. I'd been to a couple of acting lessons and I just terrified me. Couldn't do it. So the idea of going to this extras agency was a little bit terrifying, but I needed the money. So I went along, and being relatively easy on the eye back then, they took me on. And my first job, I think it was actually one of only two jobs that I ever got with them. But the first one was going down to Brighton and being in this commercial for the train link. I can't remember which one it was, but it was basically a new train line from London to Brighton. And I was supposed to be the guy that had gone down on this train, and while I was there, met this girl, and that's it. And so everybody should come to Brighton, because that's what happens if you come to Brighton. You're going to meet this girl, you're going to fall in love, and happy days. So I get down there and I meet the director, and he's like, yeah, you got to do this, you got to sit on that railing and sidle up to this girl, put your arm around her and just look out to sea. So that's it, really. So I'm like, so I don't need to be on camera and I don't have to say any words, and she said, no, it's just do that, sit there, put your arm around her, and your job's done. I was like, okay, I think I can do that. And the girl that I was putting my arm around was this girl called Kadamba. She had long dark hair, and she had this real energy about her, and she was very bubbly, and she made the whole thing very easy for me. That was this, because it was really nerve-wracking to kind of be, even just seeing the back of my head on camera wasn't what I was used to at all. And she made this whole thing very easy, and the day was fun. And Chris Eubanks turned up, and he was driving his massive, I think it was a truck or a tank or something ridiculous, but he turns up because he was in it, and we got the train back together, and Kadamba and I kind of sat and talked the whole way back to town, and it all was around relationships. And I told her how I'd had my heart broken by this girl who I'd been with for ages, and she cheated on me, and I think she found it quite unusual and disarmed her, because I was so open with her, and it gave her permission to be the same, which I think in hindsight, the world that she lived in and the lifestyle that she had was quite a really unusual thing, and something that she wasn't expecting at all, and that she didn't have with many people, because she was guarded, and because she was kind of an it girl, and she was in the papers, and she was in film and all the rest of it. So our relationship kind of played out like that, where she would call me and she would just tell me how she was feeling and how she was struggling and how that she just wanted to be loved, and why isn't it happening, or why can't I find them, and why do I attract these kind of people, and all of those things that you go through when you're young and you're looking for love. And we'd hang out and we'd speak to each other, and then we got a record deal, and it became much harder to stay in touch with, well, anybody really, because we were so busy and we were away all the time. So we kind of lost touch a little bit. When I was back in town, we'd hang out, we'd meet up, and I stayed in touch. But a few years passed, and we took a break in our schedule for me to get married. And of course, I wanted Kadamba to come. I hadn't spoken to her for a while, but heard that she'd been in India and had been over there while we'd been touring. And when we came back, I sent her an invite, and she sent me a message saying, I've met him. I found him. Finally, I've fallen in love, and it's amazing. And he's coming the same weekend as you're getting married. He's coming to London, so I can't come. I'm so sorry, but have a great time, and I'll see you when you get back. And I was thrilled for her, because that's all she'd ever wanted, was to find that person that would love her for who she was, and she found him. So we got married, had a nice time in France, flew off straight from the wedding to St. Paul de Vence in the south of France, to this little hotel, guest house called the Colombe d'Or. So we have this room, and the only thing I remember out really is this: there was the bowl of fruit, and these beautiful flowers that were in the room that had this amazing smell. They were lilies, and that's really all I can remember about it. And we woke up the next morning, so it was the first morning of our honeymoon, and to this message saying, "Have you heard the news? Have you heard about Kadamba?" And of course I hadn't. So I got on the phone and spoke to a friend of mine who told me that she had been murdered by the boyfriend that she'd met in India, who was paranoid schizophrenic, who had fallen into a jealous rage, and had strangled her to death in the bathroom of this flat the weekend that she was supposed to be at my wedding. So I spent the rest of the day walking around the gardens and sitting by the pool and thinking about Kadamba and what had happened. And it was the first time that I had lost somebody close to me. And not only was she close to me, but obviously the timing and the way in which she died had a profound effect on me. And of course the narrative that you so easily fall into is, well, if only she'd come to the wedding, she could still be alive. And I suppose as a cathartic process, more than anything, as much as anything, as well as the dedication to her and to her memory, I wrote this song called K, which ended up being the last track on the second album that we made in New Orleans. That no one knows about, it never really wasn't a single, the album never got released, but it was one of those songs that we recorded it. It's had such a power to it. We recorded it in a couple of takes, I think. The vocals were live, and you can hear the performance in that vocal. And the opening lines were, "The scent of flowers filled my room the day I heard the news. Strong and overpowering and beautiful like you. They pushed their existence forward for all to gather up. I could drink you in forever and never have enough. And so the love is lost, but it's not gone. It just goes on and on and on. And so the things we hold fold and die. Just a memory, you and I." So here's the song for you, my friend Kadamba. I still think about you. I still miss you. But you still go on and on and on. The scent of flowers filled my room the day I heard the news. I'm strong and overpowering and beautiful like you. forward for all to gather up. I could drink it in forever and never have enough. So the love is lost, but it's not gone. It just goes on and on and on. And so the things we hold fold and die, die. So now you know all that matters is the love you leave behind. To open up like flowers, to rub until we shine. You did so very well, my friend, your heart did overflow. You watered us with so much love, we couldn't help but grow. So the love is lost, but it's not gone. And it just goes on and on and on. So the things we hold fold and die, and die. I hope I gave you something to speed you on your way. The same wind brings you back to me, that carries